All right, for this explainer, we're diving into something that, let's be honest, feels heavier than ever. We're talking about the possibility of a second American Civil War.
You know, this quote right here, it's from a journalist in the movie Civil War, and wow, does it hit hard. Don't do this. But here we are. It just perfectly captures this anxiety that so many of us are feeling, and it really sets the stage for a conversation we absolutely need to have.
I mean, think about it. For the longest time, this whole idea was kind of fringe, right? It was the stuff of novels and what-if scenarios. But what our sources are showing is that it's not on the margins anymore. It's moved right into the mainstream conversation.
I mean, it's everywhere now. It's the plot of blockbuster movies, it's being seriously studied in academic war games, and for a lot of people, it's a very real, tangible fear.
So let's be super clear. Our goal here is not to be fortune tellers. We're not predicting anything. What we are doing is unpacking what the experts, the academics, the filmmakers, the analysts are actually saying. We're asking the question they're asking. If the unthinkable did happen, what would it even look like?
All right, so let's get right into it. The first question is, how would it even start? Well, a modern civil war isn't going to begin with cannons firing on some fort. No way. The sources we've looked at imagine a completely different kind of spark, something born out of our hyper-connected digital world.
Okay, check this out. One source paints this absolutely chilling picture of a deep fake crisis. Just imagine, you wake up and a totally realistic-looking video of a massive Supreme Court ruling drops online. It goes viral instantly. Before anyone can even fact-check it, millions of people are convinced it's real. Then, boom, another deepfake pops up, maybe a governor reacting to it. Suddenly you have multiple conflicting realities. In that kind of chaos, how could the government or the military possibly respond? The first shot fired isn't a bullet, it's a perfectly crafted lie.
And a deepfake isn't the only possibility. Other sources point to different flashpoints. Maybe it's a deadly confrontation that becomes a rallying cry for millions. Or you could have a state governor just openly defying a presidential order, creating a standoff. Or, and this is a big one, what if there's an unpopular Supreme Court ruling that just makes people lose all faith in changing things peacefully? And then there's the ultimate constitutional crisis, a disputed election where Congress just refuses to certify the results. You see the pattern, right? The common thread in all of these is a single moment that just completely shatters whatever trust is left.
So, okay, let's say one of those sparks ignites the flame. What happens next? Well, all the sources agree on one thing. This war would look absolutely nothing like the history books. Let's dig into what this new kind of conflict would actually be.
Okay, this right here really reframes the whole idea of war. I mean, just look at the comparison. Forget everything you know about open fields and clear battle lines. The sources we've seen describe a war fought on totally different terrain. Digital networks, power grids, even your local suburban supply chains. The goal isn't to capture a city, it's to collapse the entire system that keeps our modern world running.
Yeah, and this one line from a source just says it all, doesn't it? Warfare in 2026 is about who keeps the lights on the longest. It's not about taking ground, it's a war of pure logistics. It's a race to see who can keep the power on, the fuel flowing, and the internet running while making sure the other side can't. The winner might not be the one with the last bullet, but the one with the last working generator. It's a whole different ballgame.
But of course, a war isn't just about systems and grids. It's fought by people. And that leads to maybe the most critical question of all, one the sources are really wrestling with. Who exactly would be fighting whom?
Okay, so this is the oath of enlistment. Every single member of the U.S. military swears to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But here's the problem. What happens when Americans can't agree on who the domestic enemy is? Our sources show how that one oath is being pulled in two completely opposite directions. For some, it means loyalty to the government. For others, it's the justification for joining an armed militia to fight against that same government.
Man, this question from Congressman Jason Crow, man, it's just haunting. He's an Army veteran, and he was inside the Capitol on January 6th. And he's asking, how did he end up on one side of a barricaded door while his fellow veterans were on the other side trying to break it down? It's just such a powerful, painful symbol of this divide. The nation's protectors literally split in two.
So yeah, it's pretty clear this wouldn't be two neat armies lining up. It would be a total mess. The sources describe this really fractured landscape. You'd have organized militias, you'd have these highly trained veterans acting as what are called force multipliers, basically a small group of experts who can have a massive impact. Then you've got states teaming up to form their own alliances, big cities trying to declare themselves neutral, and just countless little independent cells of online and real-world guerrilla fighters.
It's a spider web, not a straight line.
The thing is, none of this is totally new. It's not happening in a vacuum, and the sources we're looking at keep pointing back to history, looking for patterns to help make sense of all this anxiety today. And honestly, what they find is pretty unsettling.
Just take a look at this timeline. When you lay it out like this, a really clear and, frankly, kind of chilling pattern starts to emerge. After just about every major American war, what happens? We see a rise in violent, anti-democratic movements. And who's often leading them? The veterans who just came home from those wars. It happened with the first KKK after the Civil War, it happened again after World War I, and it's happening now, with veterans being disproportionately represented in the January 6th insurrection and in modern militias. It's like, time and again, the end of a war overseas becomes a trigger for violence right here at home.
And a key idea that came out of this history is something called leaderless resistance. It was thought up by a Vietnam vet named Louis Beam. And the concept is simple, really. Instead of one big organization with a leader you can arrest, you have tons of small, independent cells. They all know the goal, but they operate on their own. And because there's no central command, it makes them incredibly hard for law enforcement to track and stop. It's a strategy that has shaped extremist movements for decades.
Okay, so if we zoom way out, historian Alfred McCoy gives us an even bigger framework to think about this. He studied empires throughout history, and he argues that when they start to decline, they tend to show two classic symptoms. One, they start lashing out with these small-scale military actions abroad, and two, they experience massive political turmoil at home. We're talking coups, insurrections, the works. It's a pretty sobering lens to look at our current moment through, and it really makes you ask, are we seeing those symptoms right now?
So, where does all of this leave us? Well, in the end, none of the sources we looked at are saying a civil war is definitely going to happen. They're not predicting the future. Instead, what they're doing is laying out a choice, a really stark choice, about what kind of country we're going to be.
Because the ultimate danger they're pointing to isn't just a war fought with bullets and bombs, as terrifying as that thought is.
It's a war over the very integrity of democracy itself. That's the real battleground. It's a fight happening right now through disinformation, through attempts to subvert elections, through a willingness to just throw out the peaceful transfer of power. That, the sources argue, is the front line that really truly matters.
And so, that brings us to the final critical question. The historical patterns are there. The warnings are flashing, from our own past and from people who've seen this play out in other countries. So the question isn't really, can we see the edge anymore? The question is, can a nation, once it's staring over the brink, actually find a way to pull itself back?